Hey y'all, welcome to another video. I'm Mr. Patrick Bueno, and in this one we are going to be looking at the basic editing tools that Lightroom has to offer. Let's get into it. So I've got my photos in Lightroom. If you need help importing your photos, go check out the other video where we import and export our photos in Lightroom. This is the photo I'm going to edit with you guys. That way you can gain a little bit of insight into my train of thought when it comes to utilizing this basic tab here. If you are not seeing this basic tab, it's because maybe you're stuck on the library tab from importing your photos and you just need to switch over to develop. I don't usually in Lightroom use the map, book, slideshow, print, and web tabs. I'm usually just going back and forth between library and develop. Library to pull in my photos, and then the develop tab to start editing photos. That's all I need. I think that's all you guys are going to need within the class if you're in my class. So let's get started. Let's think about the first things that I want to do with my photos, and that would be utilizing the crop tool. I want to get my composition correct before I even think about color, shadows, exposure, and everything else. So hit this crop tool right here, and let's think about the aspect ratio. Depending on where you want to deliver your photos, whether that's Instagram, Facebook, print, or whether that's utilizing images in a video, it's kind of up to you when it comes to your aspect ratio, or it's up to the person you're delivering these photos to. If you have no restrictions, it's totally your artistic choice to decide what aspect ratio you want. For this long landscape, I want to use 16:9. I click on that and I'm gonna hit enter. Bam, and we've cropped it from before. If I hit Command Z, it'll go back to the original. We went from this to that. Actually, I'm going to go back to the crop tool. Pay attention to your cursor, because depending on where you place your cursor, your tool will change. So right now we have this hand showing up on the cursor where if you click and drag, you can kind of move your photo around within your crop range. If you go over here towards the edges, this is how you can move the edges here, and then same thing, this diagonal will just kind of move with an anchor on that other diagonal across. See, if you go outside of a corner, this is how you can rotate your pictures a little bit depending on how you want to place that horizon line. Yeah, actually I'm gonna hit escape because I was just demonstrating and I want to go back to what we had originally, so I'm gonna hit escape. I'm just gonna adjust a little bit, crop in a bit, move a little bit over here. I like to look at this smaller view up at the top left to kind of like get a versatile feel to see how my picture would look as a smaller print. See if I want to fit this composition in just a little bit, and I'm just making little changes, tilts, and I'm honestly looking more at this than I am at the bigger picture. It like zooms you out and it gives you just a little bit better of a perspective as a whole image than looking at like the big screens that we have in front of us. I like this. I think this is good. I'm gonna actually use my arrow keys to scoot over just a little bit, go back one, enter, and this is where I've landed with my crop. After cropping and aspect ratios, I want to move over into the basic editing tab. If you can't see it, it's because it's probably collapsed like this. You can hit this arrow and it'll open up. The first thing that I want to do when it comes to the basic tabs is set my temperature. Temperature can change a lot when it comes to the mood of your image. You can make this image a lot warmer and make it feel like it's in the daytime versus colder wintertime, maybe going into a little bit more of a nighttime. I like to do drastic changes to see which one I like better. That's like way too drastic. You're not getting anything there. But if we go more blue, that gives you a certain feel. If we go more orange, that gives you a feel. And if I recall, we were heading into the night, which means I kind of like the blue over the orange. This kind of makes me feel like the sun's rising, whereas this kind of makes me feel like the sun is setting, which is exactly what was happening when I took this photo. So I kind of just want to mess with this temperature and just go like a little bit more on the blue side, and I'm happy with that. If we double click on this, it'll take us right back to where it was set before. And so I can toggle between Command Z and then Command Shift Z to redo. So Command Z is to undo, Command Shift Z is to redo. So if I want to toggle back and forth between these two changes, I can claim that I actually like the change that I made. So I'm going to keep it and I'm going to stick with it. After that, we can go into Tint, which kind of goes more magenta or it goes more green. Let's see what magenta looks like, and then versus the green. And of course, those are drastic changes because we just want to get a feel And I kind of like a little bit more magenta. I usually lean more magenta when it comes to my edits, but maybe you feel a different type of way. Boom, there we go, plus 20. So a little minimal change. Let me hit Command Z. We're back to what it was on default. Command Shift Z. Hardly can tell a difference, but it's what I'm going for. After that, we are gonna hit the tone tabs, starting with exposure. I already know that I was already overexposed in some previous images, and I was kind of finding my lighting at a very fast pace. If we hit exposure, we can turn this up, and yeah, see, that's way too exposed, and then we go the other way, and ooh, look at this. We're getting a little bit more of the sky back, which is really nice, especially when the sun's setting in this image. So I definitely want to keep this more on the darker side, and if I look over here, it's showing me that it's right around -1, which -1, if we were just to type that in, that is a stop of light. A stop of light essentially is just having the amount of light that your camera picks up. So if we go -1, that means we've halved the amount of light from when we were at 0. If we were to go to +1, we would double the amount of light that the camera picked up. And you know, that's like way too bright. So I like it at around -1. If we were to actually go -2, that'd be 2 stops of light that would be going down, and that's just way too dark. So I'm actually gonna hit -1, and this is kind of where I'm landing on where I think it feels good. A little more lighter, 0.75, let's call it 0.8. No, -0.8, whoops. Bam, there we go. I like it at this exposure level right here. I'm gonna skip contrast. I usually do contrast at the end because contrast can kind of change your photo a lot, and I wanna do like minimal work before I do a lot more drastic work. So I'm gonna skip contrast, and I'm gonna go to highlight, shadows, and whites and blacks. And actually, if you look at this histogram up here and a highlight over it, you see these little sections that are showing up. And if you look where ISO 400 is, as I go through, you can kind of see that they correlate to these sliders down here. So here's your highlights, which are up here. Here's your shadows, which are over here. Here are your whites, which are showing up way over here to the right of the histogram, and then the blacks are all the way to the left. Rather than sliding the sliders, I like to look at the histogram, and you can actually select this histogram. Here in the middle you have exposure, which we already changed with the slider, but you can click and drag this around and just look at your image and see the changes that you're making there. I like using the histogram because you get like a visual sense with the graph, but also you can kind of just move this around and just focus on your photo and see what it is that you're utilizing and changing within your histogram. I'm gonna mess with the shadows first because we do have some really big shadows, and I'm gonna move them up a little bit, see if I like that, and then move them the other way, see if I like that. And I'm glancing over to our small image too, just to kind of get a feel of what the picture looks like in a small form. But I like something like this, where you're like keeping that side of the mountain in the dark, and you have a nice contrast with the light at the top of the peak. But you're not losing all this detail, you're just kind of hiding it a little bit. So that's kind of where I'm gonna land my shadows. Let's see what we can do with the blacks. And honestly, where it was totally just fine, so I'm gonna leave it there. I'm gonna hop to the highlights. Ooh, and you can see that the highlights are actually affecting the sky a lot. So I'm gonna bring back a little bit more of that blue, but not too much. That's like way too much white. I want like a nice natural looking sky. So something like this would be good. Let's bring it back up a little bit. Okay, cool. And then the whites would be very similar to the sky. These are like your brightest points in your photo that you're adjusting. Bam, we'll leave it right there. You can toggle this eye to kind of see where we've come from. This eye over here next to basic. So if you click and hold it, that was your before. And then if you let go, this is where you're at now. So I do like the changes that we've made so far. Let's see, what else? Next up, if we move down, would be the presence. And so texture, let's just see what it does if we pull this all the way up to 100. Bam. We get a lot more detail in every part of the photo. And if we bring it all the way down, it kind of blurs out most of the image. Texture, I just like to use a little bit or take away a little bit, depending on if I want a softer image or if I want a more detailed image. And so if we pump it up just a little bit, I'm digging it right around here. Nope, that's way too much. See, I was just using my eye to look at the photo, and then I saw the number that I made, and I was like, oh, that's actually pretty drastic. So I kind of want to do something right here in the middle, just so that I know I'm affecting the texture just a bit, but I'm not overdoing it. And if you were to double click this, it'd go back to 0, and then you can hit Command Z to go back to this value that it was at. So I'm toggling back and forth. That's with texture and without. And honestly, that's still a little too much for my taste. We'll put it at 16. Double click, go to 0, Command Z. Yep. Okay, we just put a little bit more definition and texture into our mountain peak. Clarity is very similar to texture, but it's a lot more drastic. If you turn it all the way up, there's kind of like way too much to look at. You lose a little bit more of like the overall photo, and you start looking at what's over here, what's going on over here. You can start to see like these trash can bins over here in the trees, and we don't really need to see all that. Double click in the clarity to reset it, and just like texture, I am going to give it just a smidge of a value change. So just about +10. Dehaze, I don't know when I would ever want to dehaze this much. And then also, yeah, same here. This is like too much editing for my taste. I'm trying to like make this a little bit more natural to what I was seeing when I was there. And just like that, +12 is perfect for me. Next, we have Vibrance and Saturation. You can kind of see the drastic changes this makes, adding a lot more color and then taking away a lot of color. You can use the slider, or you can actually like press and hold on these numbers to change these values over here to the right as well. I'm just trying to give a little bit more blue back into the sky, so we'll leave the Vibrance at +6. And then Saturation, I feel like, right now, I feel like the mountain is a little bit too orange. So let's see if we bring the saturation down, if I like it a little bit. See, that's way too, that's like going black and white. We're slowly adding more color back. And I think something like this is very tasteful. So we actually went down -13. If I were to go +13, let's see what that would do. Bam. Yeah, it feels like the mountain has way too much color, and if you really push it, you kind of see what I mean. What you can do is you can start at 0, you go really extreme, and then once you see like that's way too much, check your value. So that's +33, and then go the other way to where you feel like you're losing too much color. And this is right here, -33. Oh my gosh, look at that. So in a perfect world, you would say that 0 is actually the perfect number. However, I think I want a little bit less color, so I'm gonna go -10. Yeah, we can be happy with -10 there. Once you get through all these sliders, now we can go back to contrast, and we can add in just a little bit of more contrast or take away. For my taste, I like a little bit more contrast, so let's just see the difference here. If we put some gain in the contrast, it'll make the shadows darker and our highlights a lot more lighter. You can kind of see that drastic change. Going the other way, we start to lose, contrast. So let's find our happy medium. And I'm not even paying attention to what side of the 0 I'm on. Am I taking away contrast? Am I adding contrast? I'm just looking at this photo, and I am going back and forth until I find my sweet spot. And even like a good thing to do when it comes to things like this is like make your eyes blurry, like start to cross your eyes a little bit until your vision gets blurry. That way you can kind of see less detail in your photo, and you can kind of start to see the overall image. So I just like to squint my eyes and mess with these knobs until it feels right. And I think right here's where I'm at. Let's see, -8. So yeah, we ended up taking away some. Nice. Awesome. We made it through all of the basic tabs. If we want to see our before and after, you can press and hold this I and kind of see like where we started and where we ended up. Also, you can come down here and hit this, like there's this YY right here. It says it is the cycles between before and after views. So click on this YY and you can see side by side where we started. And honestly, this is a day and night difference. I'm happy with this little edit over here, even though we haven't even gotten into anything else. We just started using the basics. And then if you want to get back to your single photo, you can hit this one right here in your back. What else? This is a really sweet thing you can do. You can right click on your photo down here and you can create a virtual copy, and it'll make a copy of this one right here. So you have two photos that are the same side by side. For some assignments, I'll have you turn in your edited and unedited photo. So work on one and then create a virtual copy and then just hit the reset button down here and you will get your original photo. You can also make another virtual copy, make this one, you know, black and white based on the edit. And there we got 3 photos, 3 different edits that you can turn in. To export, go check out the export video. But to get started, you can hit right click, export, and then go check out those settings in the other video. And that's the little introduction video on the basics panel in Lightroom. Hope you learned something. I'll see y'all in class, or I'll check y'all in the next video. Thanks for watching.